This is Canton Network, or CCUSDT, and it is currently in a consolidation pattern with about 14 cents to be its resistance to actually break out of this pattern. Now, this is a falling wedge pattern that is a bullish pattern that usually breaks to the upside. But there's quite a bit of things happening in the crypto markets right now that could affect a potential breakout to this pattern. Now, I am just talking about probabilities here because even though these patterns have a higher chance of breaking to the upside, these falling wedge patterns, they still have a lower chance that they could still break down. It's all about probabilities here. Now, it's impossible to talk about any altcoins without a clear understanding of Bitcoin first. So we're going to come back to this chart here for Canton Network and look at some of the smaller time frame patterns that could affect this breakout and its target to about 18 cents. Now, these price targets are estimates only, so it's very important to be paying attention to what happens on the lower time frame and how that could affect its movement to the price targets. And these price targets are going to be very dependent on Bitcoin. Bitcoin right now is not looking great, and I'm going to show you guys why that is. All right, let's come to this Bitcoin chart here, and we're looking at a full retest of all the moving averages we have just broken on top on. This is not a great look for Bitcoin because since I have warned you guys about the Trump tariff threat, which we're going to get into as well on some of these news headlines, because that is a major threat that seems to be pushing crypto down for the past couple of days. I don't usually pay attention to the news too much, but there are things that really affect the markets, such as these tariff threats. Because if you guys remember, in October, the threat that actually Trump imposed on China actually crashed the markets. Much deeper than this time around, but we have to see how this one plays out because when it first started back on Sunday afternoon, not too much of a reaction from Bitcoin, actually bouncing back quite a bit quicker than the stock market. But right now we're seeing the impact deepen. So right now what I'm paying attention to is it would not look good for Bitcoin right now if we actually get a candle close that is lower than 90,000 approximately, because that will give us a lower low here. And that would end the trajectory of this higher low trajectory, which is not good because you want to see a higher low that is basically the foundation of an uptrend. If you start seeing lower lows here, which I'm comparing this today's candle right now versus the candle close of January 10th, and that is not going to be looking good. So this daily candle ends in about 5 hours. Let's see if we actually are able to keep a higher low here. Now we have retested quite a bit of these daily moving averages. Very important we keep them as support. If we actually break below them, that is also not looking good. Now, we do still have quite a bit of bullish signals that could still be playing out, including bullish divergence on the weekly time frame. Now, could we actually bounce back from this tariff threat impact? Just have to see, even up to the weekly time frame. And I'll be updating you guys on what this chart looks like because this is going to impact quite a bit of altcoins here, including Canton Network. All right, I have also charted on a lower time frame that Bitcoin has broken below a falling wedge pattern, which is not good because falling wedges are bullish patterns that usually break to the upside. I am also looking for a short opportunity to short Bitcoin. And about this resistance here, because if we don't get hourly candle closes back into this pattern, chances are we could be looking at more downside. Now, that is just what I'm doing because I'm hedging against my long positions, and I am long on quite a bit of altcoins still. So my opinions and outlook on this market, on crypto in general, is still bullish, but I am starting to scale out of some of my long positions for some reasons. Okay, one of which, of course, is because it looks like we are about to get a lower low on the daily time frame, which is not looking good. Second of all, of course, seeing this tariff threat is starting to impact the crypto markets more so than we have seen yesterday or even Sunday. The third one would be because we do have an FOMC meeting that is coming up in 8 days, January 28th. And I am not particularly bullish about that meeting. Now, we already know that the FOMC is basically not going to be changing rates or lowering rates for this upcoming meeting. We're looking at a 5% probability. So that's basically set in stone that we're not going to lower rates unless something crazy happens. And given all the drama that's happening with the FOMC, the Federal Reserve right now, if you guys don't know, is because the Trump and Jerome Powell feud has also took a turn. I mentioned this news last time when they actually opened a DOJ investigation into Jerome Powell about that building renovation. So I am not particularly bullish about this FOMC meeting, and we're getting closer to that. And that is why I am also scaling out some of my long positions because I am on leverage, and I want to make sure I have enough buffer or margin to cover the rest of my long positions. So that is basically what I'm seeing for this market. Of course, everything I'm saying here is just purely my opinions. It is not financial advice. You guys form your own opinions and strategies because everyone's situation is different. Now, let's come over here to take a look into some news before diving back into Canton Network. This is by Reuters. Bitcoin hoarder strategy, that is MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, buys $2.13 billion in Bitcoin in 8 days. That is still crazy. So, I mean, what does this guy know that we don't? Is he still seeing brighter days ahead for crypto despite this dump? It seems like it. I still think that there is more chance that we rebound from here, but I will update you guys on my opinion as new trading data comes in. Because I am not a perma bull or perma bear, I look at reasons on both sides. This is by Cointelegraph. Bitcoin trader keeps $100,000 Bitcoin target as gold hits record 4750. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about silver and gold more on this channel as well because I'm starting to see the inverse correlation, at least in the short term, between gold and risk on assets like stocks and Bitcoin. But I still do think that on the longer term trajectory that they are still positively correlated because it's basically still a bet against the dollar. And if you guys don't know, they're still printing money. Let's go to the next piece here, which is by Crypto News. Bitcoin falls below 95,000, but ETF demand just hits statistical extremes. Are whales loading up again? If you guys want to read more about this, you guys can. But it sounds bullish. Next piece here is by Coinpedia. Bitcoin price slides below 91,000 as open interest rises. Is a deeper correction ahead? I would still not rule out a deeper correction here because I mentioned that a resistance to be looking out for was at about that 100,000 level, because that's where your weekly 50 SMA and your weekly 21 SMA is at. Could the resistance come sooner, given that tariff threat? Potentially. If so, if we don't break out of where we are right now, then we could be looking at a scenario like this for Bitcoin, where it could potentially form a falling wedge scenario that could take us down to the weekly 200 SMA. That's the orange line here, which is not going to be pretty for quite a bit of these altcoins. So first of all, now we gotta break out of the resistance at about 98,000, and then the next level will be resistance at about 100K, the weekly moving averages. All right, let's go ahead and take a look into. All right, this is basically it, and let's take a look into this news here, which is about precious metals, which also echoes what I'm talking about here. Gold rises further as Greenland standoff fuels haven demand, market talk. Yeah, so what they're saying is this. Why are tariffs negatively impacting the risk on assets like stocks and crypto? It's because the Federal Reserve are going to see that as a inflation risk. And when they see inflation risk, they're less likely to lower rates. And when they're less likely to lower rates, that is not as good for the risk on assets, because the risk on assets thrives on cheaper money. Let's go back to Canton Network and see what's happening on this altcoin here. Now, given that backdrop of the macro markets, specifically Bitcoin and the tariffs, what we're looking at here for Canton Network is a falling wedge pattern on the daily time frame. If it breaks out by this point, for example, price target would be about 18 cents. Now, these price targets are estimates only, because in the case of these altcoins, it does depend a lot on what happens with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin rolls over these bullish setups, they're not going to matter very much. It will significantly decrease the success of a breakout and achieving their price targets. Let's take a look into a shorter time frame here, which is the 2-hour time frame. This is a potential cup and handle pattern on the 2-hour time frame, with the resistance to be about 13 cents, 13.2 cents. That is inside the falling wedge pattern. And if this cup and handle pattern completely forms, I am looking for one more test back up to about 13.2 cents. Excuse me, this is already a cup and handle pattern. I'm sorry. So this is already a cup and handle pattern. I already see a cup here, the bigger bottom with a smaller rounded bottom that's already forming. So in my opinion, this is already a cup and handle pattern. And this cup and handle pattern has a price target of about 15.7 cents price targets. So this is basically what I'm seeing for Canton Network, but it does depend a lot on what happens with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin continues rolling over, that's gonna risk these bullish setups. So this basically wraps up for today for this video. Let me know if you guys want to continue seeing any more of Canton Network by dropping a like, comment, subscribe. And if there's enough of you guys who want to see it, I'll bring you guys another update. And I'll see you on the next one.